someone who was a role model to millions of Americans. There's no way that Donald Trump is going to get away or be classified as a role model because he's anything but. And I have anything but respect for Donald Trump because of the false promises and how much he's manipulated millions of Americans who I really feel for, who are going to be suffering in the fallout of the race for 2017. Because I believe this, we don't have to be suffering from what Donald Trump is saying in the way of false promises and misleadership. It was definitely 8 days of mistakes, misconception, misinterpretation from these two conventions. And if anything, Donald Trump was just trying to win over the American people. He may be winning in the South, but he hasn't got to be winning in another part of America. And let's just hope that Donald Trump doesn't continue to build momentum, and let's hope that Donald Trump does not continue to influence people very easily. Let me say this. Donald Trump is a very easily influenced person, and you should learn by example. Do you really want to be like Donald Trump? Let me use this acronym to describe how I really feel about Donald Trump. DBLDT, and what that stands for is don't be like Donald Trump. DBLDT, and that's what we really have to look at when voting for the next president of the United States. Do you yourself want to be a victim of DBLDT, not be liking Donald Trump? I think that's what everybody needs to aspire to be, somebody else other than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is anything but a role model, and Donald Trump has anything on his mind with the 500 million Americans who will suffer for years if Trump is inaugurated in as president of the United States. When you come away from a Democratic National Convention and you're talking about the performance of Demi Lovato live for "I'm Confident," that just goes to show how much you have to talk about from the fallout of any of these conventions, the celebrity appearances, who obviously will also contribute to voting for the President of the United States. When you're talking about that outside of the speeches of people like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, that just goes to show, how much of a concern you have about who's going to be voted in as President of the United States, because I don't think anybody cares at this point. Trump has made so many ludicrous promises. He's just seemed so far gone. It's unbelievable. I can't ever remember a time when Donald Trump has seemed this far gone, and that's where my concern lies. Do we want an idiot representing the United States who will obviously be a huge influence because of behind World War III? It wouldn't surprise me none if a few days after Donald Trump is voted in as President of the United States, if he's either killed or we see the start of World War III, the culmination of World War III. Because honestly, I don't see anything good happening from Donald Trump being voted in, inaugurated in as President of the United States. So it's going to lead to the death of Donald Trump, his assassination, or the culmination of World War III. Those are two probable events that could happen. The death of Donald Trump and a huge war breaking out in the way of World War III. And we don't want that because if World War III ever started, it would be a fucking nuclear war. And if anything happens, if a world war breaks out, we don't want it to be because of Donald Trump. I'd much rather see World War III start, a nuclear fucking war start over anything but Donald Trump being the reason for it. And with all these false promises and misleading millions of Americans, it wouldn't surprise me none if that was actually the fallout from these conventions, the campaigns that we've seen from both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. By the way, guys, I have to give a huge thumbs up to Barack Obama for endorsing Hillary the way that he did, hoping that millions of Americans would go out and do the same thing for Hillary that they did for him all those years ago, giving us a phenomenal 4-year term, 2 years broken up, two terms broken up for Barack Obama. And it all goes back to the millions of Americans who went out and did something for Barack Obama that didn't have to be done. And that's why he's saying he hopes that they do the same thing for Hillary Clinton. A huge thumbs up. You can see it there in the video going up from myself towards Barack Obama. He's one of my idols for how he supported Hillary Clinton in her campaign and this drive that Hillary Clinton has had for being president of the United States. How can you not love everything that Hillary Clinton is doing and saying to the 500 million Americans? Obviously, you're loving what Hillary Clinton is doing more than what Donald Trump is. And I know that Donald Trump does have his supporters out there, but let me say this. You are just as much out of your fucking minds supporting Donald Trump as Donald Trump is misleading all these millions of Americans. For anyone who supports Donald Trump, you are obviously supporting him because you're easily influenced, like Donald Trump has been for years, and you obviously have misinterpreted everything that Donald Trump is saying. You're just simply drinking his Kool-Aid. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of American people who don't really feel the same way about Donald Trump as these easily influenced people are. At least they have not been drinking the Donald Trump Kool-Aid. Let me say this. I support Americans who don't support Donald Trump, and I hope that they continue not to drink Donald Trump's Kool-Aid, because if they converge over to being a Donald Trump supporter and do eventually drink his Kool-Aid and are left with no other choice, then we are ruined for the future of America. And we don't want to be looking at the future of America as ruination and damnation, because that seems to be the road that we're headed down if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. I think it's irrelevant that a man comes on TV and says his worth of being $10 billion worth. And I think that it's irrelevant, him coming out and making all these false promises and calling out Hillary Clinton and Ted Cruz the way that he did. At the Republican National Convention, to have Ted Cruz's wife Heidi escorted out of the building because of what Donald Trump was saying in the way of derogatory comments, it was absolutely unnecessary. It didn't need to be happening because Ted Cruz was trying to influence us all to vote for Hillary Clinton. Obviously, Hillary Clinton has an overwhelming amount of support. Obviously, Donald Trump has an overwhelming amount of support from the response that he received at the Republican National Convention. But when you have people showing up saying stop Donald Trump with signs saying stop Donald Trump on them, obviously they have the same amount of concern that I have, and you can't help but have a lot of respect, an overwhelming amount of respect for the people who want to put a stop to Donald Trump. My hat's off to you, and another huge thumbs up going out to you. I'll give you a double thumbs up for wanting to put a stop to Donald Trump, because with how many supporters of Donald Trump we have out there, it's really scary that Donald Trump actually has a chance of becoming president of the United States. Ever before the Democratic National Convention happened, I think one of the truly most frightening things that happened from the fallout of any of these conventions was a few days after the Republican National Convention, I think it was, people were saying that they believed that Trump was going to be president of the United States and had a better chance and a greater chance of becoming president than he ever had in his life. And then comes the Democratic National Convention with everybody supporting Hillary Clinton the way they did, even Barack Obama with what he said, being a truly moving and very motivational speech. And I think then that's when the momentum of Hillary Clinton really started to shine through, and Donald Trump started to show a little bit of doubt of becoming president of the United States. He seemed really nervous at the Democratic National Convention, more so than what he did at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. They were saying Trump rocked Cleveland, but I think Hillary Clinton stole the show. If Trump rocked Cleveland, Hillary Clinton stole the show at the Democratic National Convention, and that's where her momentum really began to shine through, and where she showed me a lot of potential of becoming president of the United States, the first woman president that we'll be having as president of the United States. And I think she can really do a lot as president of the United States, because a woman's influence with the United States, take this from someone who once called himself the self-proclaimed most attractive man on internet radio. I think that a woman as president of the United States can spell great things for America, more so than an idiot like Donald Trump being inaugurated in as president of the United States. And I will go on record for endorsing Hillary Clinton. If people can get on record for saying they endorse Ted Cruz and this one or that one, I'll go on record for endorsing Hillary Clinton. I am a really big fan of Hillary Clinton for everything that she said and all the promises that she's made, because we have a better chance of seeing the promises of a Hillary Clinton granted and came through with, more so than we do the promises of someone like Donald Trump, who was only making promises for one person and going to do things to benefit one person. And at the end of the day, the only person and the only people who matter are Donald Trump and the Trump family. And that is something that we have to realize. We need to say fuck Ivanka Trump and fuck Donald Trump and fuck everyone who has association with Donald Trump, and vote for who we want to vote for, and not be so as fucking easily influenced as what Donald Trump wants us to be as easily influenced. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's going to come. The biggest concern that I have in the fallout of these two conventions, the Democratic and the Republican National Conventions, is how fucking easily influenced so many people are. We don't want to be looked at as idiots for voting as for president of the United States for our vote and say we should have voted for this person or that person. You know, if Ted Cruz were still running, we should have voted for Ted Cruz. When we had the chance to vote for Hillary Clinton, that's who we should have voted for, more so than a Donald Trump. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that so many people have been so easily influenced, and we really need to fucking wake up and smell the roses when it comes to voting for president of the United States. So we really want to regret having voted for someone when we should have voted for someone for all the right reasons, as opposed to the wrong and the insignificant reasons. Because if anyone is insignificant in all this, and the paranoia is setting in on anybody, it obviously is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, by definition, is a megalomaniac, which is someone who will go to any length to have power and do anything necessary within his grasp of keeping that power. And that's how I look at defining someone like a Donald Trump as a megalomaniac. I learned that definition back in my days of high school, and that's really what it puts me in mind of when talking about everything Donald Trump has done, announcing that he wanted to be president of the United States, looking at it as a popularity contest. He's a fucking megalomaniac, saying he's worth $10 billion. What does that have to do with wanting to be president of the United States? Shouldn't your concern be with the American people? And if I was a reporter for CNN or any news network or any radio station, the one question I would ask Donald Trump, if given the opportunity and chance, if the chance was presented to me, I would ask Donald Trump either who is Donald Trump, or at the end of the presidential election, on the night after you're inaugurated, the day after you're inaugurated, whatever, are the 500 million Americans who voted for you, who you very easily influenced because you yourself are very easily influenced, are these 500 million Americans going to matter? Because I think not. The only American that's going to matter, the only Americans that are going to matter are Donald Trump and the Trump family, the people who are in close affiliation and close relationship ties with Donald Trump. Donald Trump and Melania. Can you imagine Melania Trump as the First Lady with how she's been compared to Michelle Obama's speech from a number of years ago, even the hand gestures and the similarities of the vocabulary that was used in Melania's speech to Michelle Obama's speech from years ago? It's just fucking ridiculous. We are out of our minds, America, if we vote for Donald Trump as President of the United States. And let me say this, let me go on record for saying this. If Donald Trump is voted in as President of the United States, especially after asking for help from Russia to hack Hillary Clinton's email to get evidence on Hillary Clinton, if we vote and inaugurate Donald Trump in as President of the United States, we might as well throw in the towel and fucking retire, fucking surrender to state places like China and Russia. Because let me tell you this, if Donald Trump is voted in as President of the United States, we might as well wave the white flag and surrender to places like China and Russia, because if they team up and decide to blow up the United States because of what happens with Trump being voted in as President of the United States, we might as well face the reality of all this. And the reality of all of this is, it's the end of the fucking world. It's the end of civilization. So why go ahead and make the wrong decision and vote for someone like Donald Trump for obviously what would be all the wrong reasons? I don't want to put myself in that predicament, in that boat, and I don't want to be in that boat. So all of us have to go out, all the people who have the ability to vote for President of the United States. I hope you're not just as easily as fucking influenced as what Donald Trump is. And I hope if you vote for President of the United States, you vote for the right person and you vote for them for all the right reasons. And that's the reason why I've chosen to come on this video blog, on my radio show, and tell you about this and just raise this as a concern. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not lying. I am really concerned about what will happen if Trump is voted as President of the United States. I shudder to think. I have nightmares. I wake up in cold fucking sweats about what will happen if Donald Trump is voted in as President of the United States. I know for years people have said, that Jonathan Clarke would make a great president